Hey all, welcome back to another episode of SaaS GTM Partnership Podcast Series. This is Shankar, founder of Coot. I will be the host for this episode. Today, we have a young and dynamic leader, May Yang, with us. As a president and a leader of North America for Synchron, she's driving digital transformation for large BFSI clients across the globe. And she's a big believer of diversity, inclusive, and equity. And she headed some of the very interesting programs at Synchron related to this diversity inclusive, like one and same and stuff like that. We today we are going to discuss very different topics like partnerships, GTM, because she's handling the partnership for Synchron, and she handled very different roles in Synchron, being a young leader. So we will dive deep into very different topics. So I'm sure, like me, all of you will be excited in listening to May. Welcome, May, to our podcast.
Thank you, Sankara. Very kind introduction, and I look forward to today's discussion.
Yeah, thanks a lot, May, for giving your valuable time. Right. I think I made a quick, small introduction about you, but the audience will love to hear about you from your own, from your own words. May, could you give a quick introduction about you?
Sure. So hi, everyone. My name is May. I'm originally from Singapore, and I have a very exciting career spanning across different geographies. So I've worked in Singapore, in London, and now currently based out of the US. And as Sankara has mentioned, I've taken on different roles as well, from back office all the way to front office, so running operations to managing a P&L and looking at go-to-market. Currently now, a new role that I've taken up is to oversee our partnership and alliances and to generate new channels for us as an organization. And of course, for top of mind for all of you, it will be about how do we generate revenue, right? What are things that we should know about? What are some best practices? And I think this is a great discussion to have with Sankara as well, that we can learn from each other.
Definitely, mate, definitely. No, what's your role? I think you mentioned about you're heading the partnership, May. Could you give a little more about your role in Synchron and how, what kind of KRIs you have and how your typical day looks like, May?
Yeah, Sankara, I think a typical day, now with hybrid working, it involves a lot of Zoom meetings, in-person meeting as well. And I manage a lot of the relationship with our hyperscalers partners, right?
Okay.
And working with them to really craft what is our value proposition, right? I think for us to be attractive to any hyperscalers that we're working with and to partner with them is to be very clear about what is your superpower as an organization, right? Are you good at automation? Are you good at, analytics? To be very clear about what your superpower and what is the value you bring to the table. Because once you can articulate it, your hyperscaler partners or any partners that you work with will be able to articulate it. And your clients will also be able to articulate it. They want to know, what are you known for? Why do I want to work with you? And what is the value that you bring to the table? So a lot of my day-to-day is on working on crafting that value proposition and what is our better together story. And of course, this includes working with our own internal teams as well, right? Our go-to-market team, our practices, our pre-sales, because it needs to be aligned with what we're seeing in the market. What are the capabilities that we want to build, and as well as solutions and proof point? Because by saying that, hey, I'm good in this, but if you have nothing to support it, no one's going to believe it, right? So you need to have that social proof as well, saying, I've worked with client A, client B, client C. I have a solution and a template or a framework that I can repeat, rinse and repeat it. So this is where a lot of my work comes in as well, to really draft that and to ensure that we are on track, right? And when you partner with another firm, you want to have the level of trust that you're able to deliver what you promise that you're going to deliver, right? So a lot of the KPIs that we track, of course, is leads that are generated, revenue. That's always a good thing for us to see. But I like to track things that are much softer, right? That it shows that we are momentum, right? Are we talking to more customers now? right? How many deals are we co-selling? What are the co-marketing work that we're doing together as well? Because co-marketing really helps you to drive that co-sell effort that is going down the pipeline.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic, mate. No, for our audience, could you also quickly introduce about Synachron, what's its vision, and what's the kind of services it's doing, so that the people have an idea of what company we are talking about.
Sure. Sankara, very good question, and thank you for giving us an opportunity to introduce the company as well. Synachron, we are now 14,500 people strong, founded in 2001, still privately held, really focusing in the financial services industry. That's where we grew up in, but now we're also evolving into other industry as we continue to grow our businesses, right? We have different practices, and we're generally brought into our clients to solve their most critical problems, right? So our practices would involve consulting, cloud DevOps, digital system integration, engineering, cyber, right? So these are the value proposition that we bring to our clients, and we help them to build solutions. We help them to integrate the solutions that they want to purchase from other partners as well as their system integrator, and to help them to build new solutions for them to gain market ground as well as growing their businesses.
Oh, nice, nice, nice. Very interesting. So, the company started in 2001, but the behemoths of the system integrators exist way long ago, right? I think from the IBMs of the world to even the Accentures, TCS, Infosys, there are many people existed even well before Synachron started. So, how
Mhm.
are you able to scale, right? Despite of the other big people are there, and frankly, I think as an outsider, not but much of a difference between one person, one service provider to other, right? I think more or less the same. So what was the unique USP by which you are able to attract clients and and scale in this cutthroat competition, May?
Sankara, very good question. I think our USP has evolved through time as well,
Okay.
right? So when we were first starting out, our USP is we're very focused in financial services, right? This is where our team members all have domain expertise coming in,
Okay.
and they are senior in the industry, that they have very strong technology skills as well. So the combination of someone with strong technical skills plus business domain knowledge, that is quite rare to find, right? So we built the company based on that to be able to solve the problems that some of our clients are seeing when they are working with some of the more traditional firms that they are working with that are lacking the business domain knowledge. So that is where we started off. But as you said, right, it's been a long journey, and there are a lot of new firms coming in, and some of the likes of the biggies like the IBMs, the AWS, and Microsoft, and the game has changed, right? So we have also evolved in our journey. We started off with very strong engineering skill, which is still our core. Then we started looking at consulting as part of our service offering as well, giving clients a more end-to-end from consulting to digital to engineering, right? And that was in the phase of when digital transformation is a big it's a big buzzword, right? Everyone's talking about digital, right? So that was the trend when it's a big buzzword. And now I think the new trend that we're looking at and we're hearing is AI, right? So we also have built a series of solutions and accelerators that is focusing on AI. And that brings me to one of the pivot that we had, that when we started out our FinLabs, right? It's our innovation lab, where we built a series of accelerators to showcase our point of view, our understanding of business problems, as well as our engineering and practice capabilities. So that really brings our clients to the table to be able to co-create, and as well as working with some of our partners to co-create as well.
Oh, definitely. Thanks a lot, May, because many times we entrepreneurs, when we start, we always look up to a large incumbent and sometimes get overwhelmed saying that, hey, how can we compete? But it's a good case saying that how can we really identify, a gap, as well as even bang on with your skills and expertise and grow business, right? Despite of having the large incumbents there. So thanks a lot for sharing. So today's conversation is going to be primarily around the partnerships as well as the SaaS GTM, right? So could you give a vision for Synachron's partnership, right? I think partnership as a practice. What is your vision? When I say vision, what I say is why partnership matters to Synchron, what kind of companies you would like to partner with, and what do you expect from a partner? I think a little bit of a what is it, overview, May.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I think for us, partnership is a very important lever as we look at expanding our business, right? It's a channel that we have not actively tapped into, and this is where we want to be more proactive in. So we have very strong partners of the world, but now we're looking at how do we look at partnership with the AWS, Microsoft, Google's, IBM's as well, right? Because our clients' portfolio has evolved, right? Our the direction of technology has also evolved as well. And as an organization, we need to start looking at different avenues. So what we are focusing on, of course, there are a lot of partnership out there that you can pursue, right? But we need to be very focused in terms of what are the partnerships that would actually make a big difference, right? And this is where we get inputs from both our practices teams, right? In terms of what they are seeing in the market, what are the trends, and what are the up and coming tools that they would actually need to be successful, and as well as speaking to our business teams as well, because they are so close to the clients, right? You get the inputs from them saying, hey, my clients are all talking about this problem. I think this partnership is going to help us. So it's really bringing together different inputs from your different teams, and as well as it needs to tie in to the company's go-to-market as well, right? And then that is where we start looking at what are the partnerships that we want to form that can help us and benefit us in the long run, and the hyperscalers, for example, would also see a benefit of partnering with us.
No, definitely. Right. I think everyone knows about the value the hyperscalers bring in because that cuts across the organizations, cuts across the roles, right? I think everything is getting digital transformation. But my question would be slightly saying that beyond these big boys, right?
Mm.
How many partners you have which is not in the league of not even hyperscalers, not in the Salesforce, SAP, right? I think I'm not talking about a very young startup. I'm talking about even at least well funded. What kind of partnership you have? I'm not asking you to give sensitive
Mm.
private information, but an overview again, like what is your ethos there, May?
Sure. For the much smaller, maybe let's call them the fintechs that are coming up, right? We generally work with them to co-create part of our accelerators, right?
Okay,
Because some of their tools as well as products might help us to fast track what we are trying to build on the accelerators front. So if you look at the series of accelerators on our website, we have actually co-created with some of the up and coming firms a few years ago, and now they are definitely a lot bigger as well. So we are always looking for the fintech firms or the more small to mid-sized companies to partner with to really have skin in the game for us to have a joint POV and to be able to showcase a solution.
great. Could you give some examples where it really scale may beyond one or two clients, right? I think as an experimentation, right? Where yeah, for example, this could be for interesting for various fintech solutions which would like to partner with Synchron, saying that, hey, do I have an opportunity if I prove my metal, right? And say that, hey, I'm up for the enterprise grade, but what kind of opportunity? So by like you mentioned earlier, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So could you give some examples where it has already happened with Synchron?
Mm. Yeah, Sakura, I think this really comes down to when we work with the partner to look at a joint go-to-market, right?
Okay.
And what is in it for both parties as well. So the partnership structure needs to be clear and mutually beneficial, right? And whether are you looking at whether is it where the IP sits, where is the revenue sharing? So there are different models to look at. Some of them are more licensing play, reselling as well. So I think that model needs to be clear to begin with, and how everyone's getting compensated. Because at times, it might be a case where we are in the same client together, but in different areas, right? So how do
Okay.
you ensure that both sales team are actually compensated in the right manner to drive collaboration and to make sure that we both get a bigger pie of the business as well? So firstly, that your contractual terms, those are important. Secondly, is as well as for you to be able to scale beyond that one or two or clients, is really the trust that you have between both parties. If having something in contract is one, delivering against it and show that, hey, I'm a partner that you can trust. If the client is asking me to go work with someone else, I'm very clear that we have a partnership model that we are abiding to. And that is very important now, right? Building that trust to show
Right.
that we are going into this together. We are co-creating this solution. What are the investment and how are we going to be compensated? Those are models that you should start thinking about to have that in place. And after that is the trust and relationship that is really going to scale the partnership.
Definitely, May. So I will take a step back. So you will have your, what to say, pipeline or a view of the kind of partnership you would like to have, right? Or is it more transactional? Hey, this a client is coming and this is what they're expecting. Our team can deliver X, but we need these are the X, Y, Z, which we need from external, the new partner. So how does it fit? Is it like a overarching kind of partnership strategy based on that only you do partnership, or it is more transactional me?
Well, I think it's both, right? There is an overarching strategic direction and framework that we know. There are some that are more that we want to build a partnership with. There are some that will come up in the transactional level as well. And as I've discussed, actually talked to my practices team yesterday. I said, yeah, there are some that are table stakes, right? That we say,
Okay.
okay, this is what we're going to do, but we need to be very clear what is our outcome from that partnership and be clear with your partners as well, right? Because if not, expectations are misaligned, and as well as when you go to market with the client, you are not on the same page, right? So we need to be very clear, why are we having that partnership? Is it just for a one-off transaction, right? Or is it that we're going to build a long-term relationship and we're going to really have a go-to market in a specific space as well? And there are so many partnerships that you're going to forge over the years, right? Where is it that each partner is going to play? How does it complement your services so that the client and your account team and your practices don't get confused, right? So you need to be very clear about what is the value that each partner actually bring to the table that help you in your better together story as you go to market.
Got it, May. Got it. So for you, do we have kind of from the overarching or the partnership strategy as such you are, is there any specific area you are looking to fill in? Because if anyone listens to them and they are fitting into that category, they can reach out to you. Is there anything you have specifically looking at, May?
Yeah, well, you see, if we look at our practice offerings, right? AI, cloud and DevOps, data consulting, digital software engineering, those are of course key areas that we're looking at building partnerships on as well, and as well as the intersections on some of this, right? Because now you can't talk about AI without talking about data, you can't talk about data without talking about cloud, right? So, and then you can talk about it without looking at your entire architecture and the tech debt that you have as well. So I think this exciting topic. I think for us, of course, what we're hearing from the client, AI, data, cloud, those are still very topical discussions that we are having, right? So as long as there is a very clear solution that a partner is bringing to the table, I think we are always open to have a discussion as well and to see what is the problem we're trying to solve in the market.
Got it, May. Got it. Got it. Sure. Because no, we are, at Coot, we are helping multiple product companies in partnering with system integrators, right? One of the challenges we regularly see is, the system integrator is too broad and, complicated maze to handle with, right? So how do you see, how someone can really penetrate into the Synchron? Like, people keep on giving POCs, but they never get a face in front of the client, right? Or if their POCs doesn't convert into a paid contract, right? So because some of the startup, they feel like, hey, we too small cog in the wheel, and the SIs really don't have any interest in us. They just want to showcase to the client, right, for their brownie points, right? I'm sorry, I'm openly asking, but
Mm-mm.
how do you say, like, how can someone can navigate this phase, May?
Yeah, Sankara, I think it's a case of kissing many frogs till you find one that resonates, right? It is part and parcel of a lot of the sales process. But I think being able to articulate what that business case is, I think is very important because we have a POC, we showcase it, and a lot of times we say, yeah, it can be used in 10 different areas, right?
Right.
But I think that if nowadays, if we are more specific in terms of, for example, it's going to solve a problem in loan origination, and this is the ROI that we are seeing from it, right? I think that would generate more conversations because to your point, right? Everyone's showing a POC. Our clients and ourselves have seen a lot of POCs as well. A lot of times why it doesn't move forward is because the business value is not clear, right?
Okay.
And what exactly is so business value in terms of the savings, be it money or time, right? That specific use case may not be clear as well, right? And as well as lastly is that what is that model, right? Because I know at times when it's a startup, there is a lot of flexibility that said, okay, whatever that the client or the SI is looking for will be very flexible in the model. But I think being able to sell it to an enterprise level,
Okay.
some of these building blocks need to be quite clear, and you need to know where is it that you want to play. Knowing where your swim lane and where you want to play is extremely critical at the beginning so that you
Sure.
can find a niche. After that, you can expand out as you go, right? Because you need to first have, who are the clients that are going to then be used as your success stories, right? These are we have done this at 3 different clients, not only at the POC stage, but we have actually rolled out to X number of users. This is the business value that we actually have derived for the client, and these are the savings. And at times give some skin in the game, right? If you don't see this savings, we're not going to charge you X amount, it'll be Y amount. If we exceed that savings, we
Correct.
get an additional carrot on top of it.
Great, great, May. One follow-up question here, right? I think
Hmm.
when you say, I think obviously you explained about the value proportion, I think, right? As a I'm not even saying I can start up, I'm saying as a SaaS product, we don't get as much of a visibility to the client's feedback and where it fails. And many times we are one of the pieces of the puzzle rather than the puzzle itself, right? We are heavily dependent upon the SI, right? So again,
Hmm.
is it the personal equation really matters here? How do we solve?
Well, the personal equation really matters here, right? And I want to work on the belief that it's not that individuals may not want to share information. It might be a case where, to your point, the individual have so many different partners or stakeholders to manage that there might be a delay in sharing the information, right? So I'll say always be proactive, right, and building that relation, right, to and sometimes asking a question very differently itself might help to drive certain results, right? Because at times, we will follow up to say, hey, have you heard back from the client? How is it coming along? And at times maybe the SI have not heard back from the client, right?
Okay.
So, but maybe getting feedback from the SI saying, hey, from the presentation, what are the areas that you felt resonated? What are the areas that you think we can
Okay.
improve a little bit on? So it gives you a sense of at least what the SI view is, right? And building that relationship to then really get that client insight as to why are we selected or why are we not selected to help to improve the next steps as well.
Sure, mate. Sure, sure.
Mm.
So again, when it comes to working with a particular, product, right? Many of the products nowadays they are made in such a way that it is do it yourself, right? I think self-serve, which is works against the interest of a system integrator who likes to make a lot of service revenue, right? I think his interests are slightly different. So in this kind of case, where you see a product which is really solving a particular client's problem, but they are not giving enough revenue for you, service revenue. So how do you handle that? Do you have any examples may you have worked in these kind of products with Senacom?
Hmm. Yeah, and it comes down to why is it that the SI would form a partnership
Yes.
with the product firm, right? If what is the SI getting out of it? Is the SI getting a new logo out of it because of this inroad? Is it used as an entry point? Right? And it's okay that the SI may not be making money from the self-serve model, but the SI would be able to then continue to mine the account and get other inroads. That could be the benefit for the SI, right? Or the other flip side, it could be that, well, for the SI, it's not something that I'm able to provide my client, but it's a long-term client of mine, and I think this solution actually works for them, right? So being that person that introduced the services would give you credibility on both sides, right? Both the client as well as with the product firm as well. So I think it comes down to what I think you put it very nicely, right? What's in it for the SI? Sometimes it's not just the dollar value, right? A lot of time, of course, dollar value is the most important
It
if we can
matters,
get
right?
it.
Yeah.
It matters. It matters at the end of the day, but sometimes some of these softer dollars would help you to generate a lot more goodwill to then drive the next set of work as well. And at times also be transparent, right? Be transparent with your the product partner that you're working with, saying, hey, I'm not I am not benefiting from this ecosystem, right? And from this partnership, the way how can I benefit from this partnership? Let's have those discussion itself.
Sure, May. You have any examples of that? You don't neither need to mention your client name nor the product, but how did is there any occasion where you have dealt exactly with this situation? A product
Um,
which is not giving service revenue, but still you put in front of the clients and it really, really added value to the client as well as the
hmm.
the the product got a logo for them.
Yeah, maybe I'll give a context whereby maybe more from our consulting
Okay.
angle as well, right? Because from our consulting generally we would give recommendation of what is out there in the market. We may not have a direct partnership with those individual products, but we'll say, hey, for this solution, for the solution that you are looking at, right? This is what is trending in the market. This is what some of the peers are using as well. And we do the pros and cons like any good consulting firm would do. And it's dear client, it's up to you to decide. Of course, some products we may have a partnership, some products we may not have, some might have a self-serve model, right? But I think having that independent view to say this is what that is on the table. Whatever you choose, we may not benefit from it. That's fine. If we have a partnership, we can help to facilitate. If we don't, we may try and make an introduction or try to reach out. However, we might also do the program management of it, right? From the rolling out and the implementation side of things. So I think there are different angles to it. So that might be a more high level example of how generally we would give a basket of solutions from our consulting view as well, and for the clients to choose the pros and cons based on what suits their needs better.
Got it, May. Got it. Got it. So, BFS is one of the tough nuts to crack, right? For any
Hmm.
product. Primarily, it is though they are highest spenders in the software and tech, they are one of the highly regulated players in the world, right? So is there anything unique you have seen about dealing with the BFSI clients, May?
Well, Sankara, I think what you've mentioned, right, is a difficult market to crack. But if you know your domain, I think this is where it makes it a little bit easier, right?
Okay.
Because ultimately, clients want to solve a problem, right? And they want to work with people that understand the problem. But if they need to explain certain jargons to the teams, it makes it a little bit more challenging. So you want to make the ease of doing business much easier. And you don't need to know the entire landscape, right? Again, where is your swim lane? Where is it that you want to play in the area that you have your product, that you're trying to sell, what is it? You need to know everything about it to be a subject matter expert that the client say, hey, I'm very comfortable working with this firm, with this SI, because they know this landscape really well and they are able to advise me, right? I think there are gone are the days whereby we become order takers, right? Clients say, okay, just do ABC. They're expecting a little bit more now as to how do you consult, how do you help me to transform my business, right? And advise me on what are good practices out there and then implement it. So it is a high barrier of entry, but if you have that domain knowledge and you're able to deliver, I think this is where it becomes very sticky.
Okay, definitely I get your point. But I would say, apart from the domain knowledge, when I make a horizontal product, right, there are a lot of product companies, they make it as, pure cloud native, right? But when it comes to BFSI, the first thing in many places across the world, they ask, hey, do you have on-prem? And I will tell you, when one of the CTOs with whom I work, he's just 21-year-old kid, but very, very bright. He asked, what is on-prem? Right. So he's a born cloud guy, right? So the question I ask is, it's not about the domain knowledge in some cases, because you are bringing a horizontal product, right, which is working well in different other industries, working well in logistics and hospitality and retail. But when it comes to BFSI, suddenly they are taken off. The kind of question they ask is very different, right? So from that way, whether it is data sovereignty to compliance to other things, it's a slightly different animal, right? So in your world, since you are looking for partnership of different products, what's your expectation, right? What kind of tick marks you expect from the product, and how do you look up to it?
So, Sankara, when I mentioned business domain knowledge, it comes back to the same thing that you talked about, right? That the terms and or the expectation from a certain domain is very different. So if you don't have that knowledge of how my product's going to fit into it, it will be difficult. And I think back to your example, I think the question is, then is banking the right industry for that product to be introduced to, right? And maybe it's not, right? Maybe there are other industries that the product will fit much better unless the company decides to then do a different version just for financial services itself, right? Because again, financial services or banking regulations, right? Your management of personal data, these are all very, very key, and it requires a different type of diligence as well. Same as when you work with healthcare, when you work with maybe some of the retail businesses, they all have their own nuances. So building a horizontal product gives you a lot of opportunities, but where is it that you want to focus and build your name on, right? And then later you can have different variants that, okay, we have one that is specific for healthcare, one specific for retail, one specific for financial services. But don't try to do to be the product for everyone, right? This is where I think you will then reach the point where you do a lot of POCs, but nothing's coming back.
Got it, May. Got it. Got it. So since you're handling clients across the globe, right? Do you see that between the different geographies, the expectations of the financial services in terms of looking for certain products, does it really vary, or it again cuts across the same, May?
Well, I would say the appetite for products, it's it's not dependent on geographies, right? I think it's more dependent on the direction of each institution, right? There are some institutions that is more build, that they want to build everything. There are some institutions that's more buy, right? So whereas understanding the institution is one, I think the different geographies will give you a flavor of their buying patterns, right? Some have I'll take an example. Let's say if you work with clients in Japan or Tokyo, right? For them is that their buying patterns might take a little bit longer because they take a longer time to make decisions to ensure that they meet all the check boxes before rolling something out. While if you look at maybe clients in the US, the decision making and the cycle might be a bit shorter, right? and things might move a little bit faster. So I think just across different geographies, you see different buying patterns and decision-making styles, but it really depends on the institutions as well, right? Because there are certain institutions that may also have different regional office, but they might work in a very different manner. So I think it's really an appetite from how top of the house, the CTOs, the CIOs, is their direction really to build? Is their direction to buy? What is it that drives business value for them?
Got it, May. Got it. Got it. May, I think we are talking for quite some time on the partnership side. Do you have any good successful case studies of you are partnered with some of these, the product companies, which help them in winning many logos for you, as well as in the process they also win many logos, because that will help the audience in terms of relating to the story.
Yeah, Sankar, I think we are still quite early and quite young in our partnership journey. But however, I think we have a long-term partnership and very successful partnership with Murex, where we have both co-pitched together and we have won businesses on both sides of the pond as well across different geographies, right? So I think that has been a good example. And hence, I think for us to be more successful in the partnership journey is really to have that dedicated effort and to be very clear in terms of what we are measuring and what we bring to the table to the clients as well. So currently now that is where our focus is in terms of ensuring that we are more successful in this journey because to your point, a lot of times the success story comes one off, right? And how do we make sure that it's more sustainable and it's not just with one client, it's across different clients and maybe for a particular geography or region where they have the similar problems that we're trying to resolve for them.
Sure. Could you a little bit explain about how did the partnership happen? Is it for a particular transaction, or is it you thought, okay, this could be the real game changer for your offerings? How did it happen? I think again, you don't need to reveal the numbers or anything, but and how many you are able to implement over a period of time, and how do you see the kind of level of success you're able to see that may?
Yeah. So generally it happens based on the starting point is always based on there's a client requirement, right?
Sure.
And that is where it makes it interesting for both parties, right? For everyone to come to the table, there must be something on the table to discuss,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So there's always an opportunity, okay, how do we work together on it? And as the teams are working together on it, you sort of have a good understanding of where the expertise level lies, right, on both sides of the pond. And after you finish the deal, whether you win it or not, I think there's always the next step of conversation that we'll always have saying that we've had a great relationship working together. This is where we see we complement each other very well, be it in terms of service offerings, be it in terms of client landscape or go to market. And we start that conversation of let's continue to work together on a subset of clients that we think, right, is in that we can make good traction in and focus on that subset of clients and making sure that conversations are being had, introductions are being had, and then it will happen both ways, right? It will happen both ways. But you always start off with one, and then you start to mature that relationship to replicate it. And after a while, both parties will bring each other into RFPs, into discussions, and as well as being able to co-market together. I think what we have seen that is quite successful or very helpful for us is joint roundtables, right? That we are able to show our point of view. The product firm is able to show their point of view as well. And we bring clients around the roundtable, can be existing clients, can be prospective clients from both sides, right? And it's a joint roundtable and having a discussion on either a market trend or specific to the product on their next releases, right? I think those would then give you a lot of credibility and it helps to drive and strengthen that relationship as well.
Great, man. Great, great. Thanks a lot for sharing. So yeah, India is, having a lot of fintech startups. I'm sure I heard one of your interviews in that the HR person is saying that you're traveling a lot in India. I'm sure you would have seen a lot of startups, right? I'm sure some of them might be hearing this. So if they want to come and partner with Synchron, they want to work with me, right? What are the basic conditions they need to meet? At least one, two, three, four, five. If you could tell, that would be really helpful for at least some of the startups may.
Yeah, I think India is such a booming market. I've actually did a semester in India when I was studying as well, and I think the landscape have changed so much, and the number of startups and a lot of my ex-classmates as well are running startups, and it's very fascinating to see how the ecosystem has actually evolved. I think the few checkpoints, right? When you reach out, right? Firstly, I think always a very clear vision as to what you're trying to achieve, right? And
Okay.
where is your value proposition as well, right? Be very specific, right? Rather than being very generic, because we receive a lot of generic emails that come in that trying to set up, but it's not specific to the industry, it's not specific to a problem that you're seeing or a trend that you're seeing or upcoming trend. It's not going to catch attention. So be clear as to firstly why your startup, right? Or why your product. What is the value you bring to the table? What are the types of savings, right? And why are you looking to partner? Right? I think that is very key, right? Because we all know in the end we want to partner because we want to drive revenue. But
Right.
why do you want to partner with Synchron, right? Why do you want to partner with company A, B, and C?
Right.
How does that help you? How does that help me? So I think being able to craft that story and be very clear about it, I think that will help to gain a lot more traction and attention to begin with.
Sure, mate. But say that no, I have a clear story. But
Mm,
do we expect validation? Because you also mentioned somewhere, right?
oh,
I'm dealing with, say, for example, even I'm dealing with some of the banks in India. Will it cut for
mm,
you when you want to sell it to JP Morgan? No, just a name I'm picking up, right?
mm,
What is your next step there, right? And I'm able to articulate properly. But will that be enough? Or do you expect a clear proof of concept or of delivering certain values for certain grade of client? Even I have delivered value to certain. Okay, I will tell an example.
mm.
Somebody called Fractal, right, which is in the data
Yeah.
analytics space, right? So I listened to the founder's talk. He said that they delivered certain thing, in the HDFC, some of the banks in India. They took the same offer to the US. They said, hey, we saw this 10 years ago, right? Something like that. So uh, again, what is the next? What could be your next checkpoint, May?
Mm. Yeah, so Sakura, firstly, I think the next checkpoint firstly is validation, right? To your point, having our practices, our SMEs come in and validate whether is this something that will resonate. And it comes back to I think your example of something that works for banks in certain regions may not be applicable to banks in another region. So be very clear as to are you why are you partnering? Is it to grow in a certain market? Is it to grow to a different market? And to grow to a different market, what needs to be done to enable a very successful penetration into that market as well, right? So I think it's a case of, having a very clear understanding of what is the value proposition, what are the business values, where is it that you want to play, having that solution validated to say, hey, yes, there is a use case, but maybe these are things that you need to work on to improve it so that we think that it's going to resonate, or this might not be a problem for the clients that we are talking to. Maybe it's not the tier one banks, maybe it's the tier two, tier threes, or more regional banks that would use this more than the tier one banks, right? This is where I think that partnership that would come in very nicely, right? That our understanding of the industry, of the domain, and then working with the partner to say, this is how we think it can work, right? And then, of course, then the time and effort that's required in terms of either improving the product or improving the go-to market, I think that's an investment on both sides.
No, really thanks, May, for this point because I was about to ask the question, saying that many times the product company may not have the resources to understand know the requirements of the customers across the globe, right? I
Mm,
think I may not know, hey, in the top ranked banks, what's their expectation. So as Synchron, as a partner, how much you will educate, or how much you will work together with a particular partner in telling, hey, this is not fitting into these top rank bank. This might be working for the smaller rank banks, or it will be cutthroat saying that, hey, in the because of the tight timelines and other things, unless the person is able to really figure out, they will not be able to cut to the chase.
Mm. Well, Sankar, I think it depends. I think it depends because to your point, if there is a tight timeline, there
Right.
might be certain products that might be more suitable, right? But as well as there have been situations that we've actually reviewed certain solutions and we went back to say that, hey, for the banking industry, maybe on the security side, it may not meet the enterprise security clearance. You may need to review that. And we've kept in touch over the last few years as well. And now their product has also evolved and we're having different conversations. So I think it's a journey, right? And I believe in being transparent and open, right? Rather than not having that conversation and stringing each of our partners on. I think we need to be very clear as to I don't think it's now, or yes, it's now, but this is what you need to do. But it comes down to we are not we cannot be your sole sales arm. Don't expect the SI to be your
Okay.
sales arm, right? Because I think that is where going back to your earlier question on why is it that firms do a lot of POC but things are not expect and are not moving because you are dependent on the SI to be your salesperson, right? And it needs to work both ways. The SI will also need to see that, hey, you have also invested in sales and go to market, and you're bringing something to the table as well, right? I think that then it will be mutually beneficial on both ends.
Got it, May. Got it. Definitely. Makes sense. May, I think you worked in Synchron for a long time, assuming saying that you are going to start a product now in the BFSI, right? Will you go on the top-down approach, of the any SI, or will you identify a particular opportunity and go to the account manager and say that, hey, please introduce me, which is the most high likely it'll work, right? I think because what happens in many times we go talk to people who are in the capability head or who are in the
Hmm.
geography head, but ultimately the account manager doesn't make the introduction. The middle doesn't move, right? So what will it
Yeah.
really work? I think being you spent a long time there, what could be your advice?
I think regardless it's a top down and bottoms up approach, right? I think you need to work both ways. But when we talk about top down, sometimes it doesn't need to be at the CIO level, right?
Yeah.
It can be, a CIO minus one, minus two level as well, that you need to know who is actually making that decision. But
Got
that
it.
person making the decision would also need to check with his directs as well. Hey, have you validated the solution? Does it actually work for us? And what is the problem is solving, right? So I think that there is that mix of top down and bottoms up. And to your point, the banking and financial services industry is difficult to get in, right? But however, it's also a industry that is always evolving and needs a lot of change as well, right? So I think there are pros and cons, but regardless of industry, bottoms up, top down, the buying cycle might be a lot longer in banking. The buying cycle is definitely a lot longer because of the more mature vendor management or their GBS team, right? So that is where I think a product firm need to be able to stomach that it's going to take a while for things to actually move, right? And is that part of your go-to-market plan that you're able to have that appetite for that, or is it better to work with a much smaller firm that can actually move a lot quicker in terms of decision making before moving in that direction?
Definitely, man, definitely. So in our earlier conversation, you mentioned about the co-creation, right? So
Mm.
because you bring in certain value, knowledge from the client, what they expect, and the product which is not exactly catering, but you're jointly creating it, right? So how do you go about in the co-creation, and who? I think in terms of the responsibility to various things, who owns what, may?
Yeah. So we're very clear that we're not a product firm, right? When we co-create solutions, right? To show that, hey, this can work to solve a problem, right? So for us, it's very clear there won't be any conflict in
Okay.
terms of, oh, we're going to own part of the
Okay.
product, we're going to develop. Yeah, so we're not a product firm, and for us is that the DNA of building a product, right, and services is just so different.
Okay, okay, got it. Because many people have the apprehension saying that, hey, the
Mm,
implementation happened with one client, and then because they have all their, 13,000 people, money, why can't they, create it and then deploy it to various other clients? So with Synchron, you say that will not happen because of the DNA per se is different. That's a answer, me.
exactly. For us, it's more of the services, right? And for the product and the whole maintenance of that versions and all that would be with the firm. I think at times where we see a bit of the conflict is that the product firm wants to do the SI themselves as well, right? And that is where is there might be a bit of conflict as to where is it that the handover or that partnership is successful.
Okay, okay, okay. Got it. Got it. Sure, sure, May. I think, yeah, I'm cognizant of the time. We have a few more minutes. Probably I will wrap up with one or two questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the question again is coming to the joint, GTM, right? I think the product company might not have all the resources, right, in terms of with the matching capability or the size of Synchron, right? So what's the bare minimum you expect from a product company when it comes to the GTM, right? And from the product is very clear, right? They need to train you,
Yeah.
they need to do. But from the GTM, what do you
Mm.
expect from them?
I think from the GTM side of things is knowing which clients do you actually want to target, right?
Okay.
And a lot of times it's always, oh, we want to reach out to all the clients. I'm like, no, let's be more focused. Which are the clients that you want to target? Because if you look at banking and financial services, it's a very wide gamut, right? Are you
Right.
looking at some of the credit unions? Are you looking at the asset management side, the buy side, the sell side? So I think your go-to market needs to be very clear, and as well as what does success look like for you, right? Does success means that we have deployed our product, our solution on a client side, or is success we've deployed and made money out of it? Right? So I think that success criteria needs to be clear in your go-to market, and as well as the timeline. What is your appetite for that timeline? Because it's an industry that takes time, right? Is that what and is that something that you have baked in into your go-to market? Because if not, it leads to a lot of frustration, right? So I think when you look at your go-to market, be very specific in terms of where is it, who are the clients that you feel that you want to target very quickly, right? Because of the values that you bring to the table, as well as what is the timeline that you actually have to invest in this as well.
Got it, mate. Got it. Got it. Sure. Thanks. So with the AI is coming in and various other new technologies emerging, do you see any gaps from the customer's expectation to the current offerings, which gives an opportunity for the new player to come in, right? Changing the status quo, right? So you are able to identify any trends or any gaps in the market, may?
Mm.
It could
Yeah,
be an opportunity
Sakura, I
for
think
the
that's
startup to
a
work on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very wide topic, right? But I think if you look at why is it that we're looking at digital transformation, if we go back to the
Sure.
digital transformation, right, is to ensure that companies are able to drive insights, right? Able to grow their business and look into different revenue streams, right? And in order for those to be achieved, your tech stack needs to be more agile. It needs to be able to address, gives you the insights that you want to drive as well. So as long as you are creating a solution that answers some of this, right? Either you increase productivity, you are able to save costs, you're able to drive revenue. What is it that you are looking at? Because if you look at a lot of the startups now in AI, right, it looks at productivity, right? Improving
Okay.
productivity. So that is where you look at, we're doing cost savings for you, we're impacting your bottom line. There are also things that impact the top line as well, right? If let's say I have a data product that actually helps clients to drive better insights or manage their data in a more agile manner as well, that they can trust the data. Are they able to make better decisions, faster decisions, right? To be able to win business, right? So I think as long as you're answering, ultimately it comes down to, as we said, money and revenue, right? Are you helping the top line? Or are you helping the bottom line? Right? One of it. It needs to be one of it. If it can be both, great. But
Yeah.
think about it in that manner, right? Because that is where ultimately everyone's running a business, right? And it helps to solve one of these problems. Because when we look at the whole movement to cloud, right, it's all about your scalability, your cost saving. So it's addressing one of these problems.
Got it, May. Thanks.
Mhm.
Really insightful, right? So May, you have handled different roles in Synchron from a COO and no partnership. So what is the most fulfilling for you taking up the role in partnership? Or you see that how important for you in the Synchron?
Yeah, it's a very exciting role because there are two reasons. One is something new for us, right? In order for
Right.
us to really put focus efforts behind how do we develop a new channel, right? So it's going to help us firstly drive the top line, right? So that is exciting. Secondly, as well, it really brings in all the experience that I have so far, right? Working because partnership is not just the front-facing client side of things. You have everything behind it, right? The transaction, the operations angle, working with our legal team or finance team, and then working with our practices, our pre-sales, making sure that this is something that the client wants to sell, working with our sales team. So it brings together a lot of cross-functional aspects, right, that tap into a lot of my past experience as well. So I would say partnership is really a Swiss Army knife type of role because you need to be able to look at everything from the operations or the more the transactional side of things, right? But also to have a business hat on, right? How do we look at the co-selling aspect? How do we co-market this? And then working with your partners who are also your stakeholders, right, in driving that entire story. So it's an extremely exciting phase for us and for me as well to be able to take this on.
Got it, May. Got it. Probably a couple of more, personal questions.
Mhm.
Then
Sure.
we can have. So I think I read some of the articles and I think you're one of the young leaders in Synchron, right? So as you grow up in the corporate ladder, either you become very effective, but somehow the people say you are not empathetic, or you are very much people
Mm.
friendly, but not as effective in delivering results. So how do you manage these both, May?
Yeah, it's something I'm still learning every day, right? I think it's a balance, right? Because as you take on different roles or as your seniority changes, right? The way that how much empathy and how much on the ground, and it's a balance, it's a balance. But I always say that be very clear of your own individual value and staying true to that, right? So that people would know how you would react in every situation. Right. So for me, for the teams that work with me, I'm always very clear that um, I'm a transparent person, right? And if you have any issues, come to me, let me know, right? So that we can resolve it much earlier, right? Don't try and hide it, and then it's not going to help. So we have those open conversation as well. So regardless of whichever role I'm in, they know that that is the way I would act. So be clear on what is it, how do you want people to work with you, right? That they know that in the event that you see in good times things are easy, everybody will be happy. But let's say in the time of a crisis, right? Let's say there is a client escalation or there is some issues that you need to be aware. How do you expect your team to act? Or how do you expect people to say, oh yeah, actually May would expect us to be doing this and that. I think that is important, right? You don't want them to come back and say, I'm not actually too sure whether would she want us to do this or do that because you know so as we try to balance out how we want to be viewed as a leader, I think being consistent to in terms of your values, that will help your teams and as well as your peers to work closely with you as well.
Oh, thanks. Definitely, this will be valuable for a lot of people. May probably the last question for our episode. For this, no, for the SaaS founders who are building products, right, and especially if they want to cater to the BFSI segment, right? What could are the things? Which are the things probably they need to keep in mind? right? While especially building a product for a BFSI.
Yeah.
If someone wants to crack
I
the
think
BFSI as a segment, is there, what are the things probably they need to keep in mind?
yeah. I think always get feedback from people who are close to the business, right? Sometimes when we build a product, we get so caught up in building a product that we may lose sight of certain aspects, especially the world is changing, business is changing, right? I think getting feedback from the business itself, whichever industry that you want to sell to, right? Making sure that you have a few people that can advise you from that industry to give you inputs on it, I think that is important. So constantly seeking that feedback, and it's a world that just keeps changing when we look at technology. It needs to be very agile, right? And how do you build your product? It needs to be the ability to scale quickly, right? Ability to then have a federated model. So things like that, that do it right the first time, your base needs to be right. And then later on, it makes life a lot easier. And for founders as well, I know it's a difficult journey, right? But you never know. I always give this example when you're boiling a pot of water, right?
Okay.
You never know when it's going to boil, right? It's that it might already be at 99 degrees and it's going to 100.
Yeah.
It's just that one more degree that is going to turn, but you never know when that's going to happen. So you might be at that point that you're already at that 99 degrees and you're about to hit to the next 100 degrees where you're going to get your next big deal, right? So that perseverance, the persistence, I think that is where have that flexibility. Don't be too hard on yourself, right? You never know when that next break is coming.
Oh, okay. Definitely lovely, May.
Mm.
So thanks a lot for your time, for the, for the valuable insights you're sharing. Probably the last parting note is like probably a 1 minute pitch for Synchron. If these are the startups you are doing certain things, you can reach out to me. Is there any parting, any specific companies you're looking for me who are doing certain
Well, I
interesting
think,
work? Yeah.
yeah, I think if you have an interesting solution or interesting value that you want to bring to a table when it comes to data, AI, or anything on the cloud, come and speak to us. I think it will be very exciting, right? And let's look at what we can do together, right? I think there is enough work for everyone out there, but be very clear of what you bring to the table. And I hope that we can be helpful in your journey as well.
Definitely, May. Thanks a million again and for your time and for sharing the valuable insights.
Thank you, Sankara.